Let's roll, baby. Welcome in. It is the Ringers Sunday pregame as we get you set for all the winnings, all the action across the board in the NFL as we close in on Week 14. Welcome in on YouTube TV and FanDuel TV. I'm John Jastremski. Let's welcome in the rest of the wise guys, shall we? We have Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer ready to rock here on this fine Sunday. And we have a lot of games that we got to go and nail. And I'm feeling good about the card. I know you guys are feeling good about the card. Sal, dicey for your Oregon Ducks. I know it's your new adopted college team. Defense was optional in Indianapolis. But a win is a win and a cover is a cover. Ain't that right?
I know. I have to root for them. I'm paying tuition, so it only makes sense. But yikes, yeah. At one point in the fourth quarter, they had allowed 8 yards per carry. I don't think you're going to win a national championship like that. But they're undefeated. They keep it going. Rose Bowl bound. Here we go. Ducks.
Joe House, you got on board with college football, which is a rarity for you. But Championship Saturday, you wanted to get some action. And you and I spent our Saturday afternoon cursing out the Texas Longhorns. What a day.
Yeah, JJ, we're at the point in the season where I want to start seeing where some of these high draft picks might land. I have to confess, I didn't really see any quarterbacks that are worth tanking for, so I don't know what the Giants or the Jags are going to do. But, yeah, Texans didn't get it across the line for us, JJ.
No, terrible first half. You were absolutely awful down the stretch. Now, Raheem, as we get set for the main event here on Sunday and Monday, which is the NFL. A lot of bad teams on this particular Sunday. A lot of gross games on this particular Sunday. Are you going to be involved with some grotesque teams for the listening and viewing audience, my friend?
No, I'm not getting involved with some of those grotesque, ugly teams. I've learned my lesson from earlier on in the season. I'm only taking good teams. Well, maybe I might have one bad team, but you guys are going to have to stay tuned.
Well, we have a lot coming your way in this Sunday edition of the Ringer Sunday pregame. We'll have Anthony DeBundo a little bit later on in the show as he will get set in the noon hour for all the games that he has coming your way. We'll have Man's Best Bet. We'll cook up our family meal. The ice cream sundae, the long shot parlay that we put together is ready for you. But we begin like we do each and every week. It's time, boys, to wisen up. Sal, the madness continues. You are on fire. It is a season for the ages. Mazel tov. Congrats.
Thank you, buddy. Well, is it over? I mean, you can.
It's not over.
It's not. Oh, okay. I have a 2-game lead. I'm 11-2. Raheem's 9-4. The other two, you guys, House, JJ, you can't
it's
even make it to the ballot.
It's a good competition for third place. That's what it is right now. I mean,
all right, that's cute.
But I want to preface your pick now.
Yes.
In our production meeting, you started to waver, and I felt like I had to jump down your throat and say, Sal, you're hot. Why are we trying to get cute? Just pick the wise wager and stay hot. So please, let's get to it.
You're right. I'm going to do it. 2-game lead, 5 weeks left. Raheem, I'll let you concede if you want right now. It might hurt a little less if you just give up now.
I'm never conceding, ever.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Rams, over 2.5 touchdowns, 3 or more TDs. I know we keep waiting for the Bills to let up, and it just doesn't happen, and maybe they go out and win the game again today at SoFi, but I like the Rams to put some points up. We saw Stafford. He was a little iffy last week against the Saints, and then eventually he got it going, right? And actually, the truth is, since Kupp and Nakua returned, they're top 8 in terms of effectiveness offensively. So they've scored 3 or more touchdowns in 5 of the last 6 games. The Bills haven't been on the road in almost a month, so I think they have a little surprise in store. At least they take a quarter or 2 off. Here we go, guys. 12-2. Rams, 3 or more touchdowns today, -118.
I will have some thoughts on that Buffalo-Los Angeles Rams game. One of our particular panelists may have some thoughts on that Bills-Rams game. But Joe House, as you and I battle for third place here on the Ringer Sunday pregame, you're going with the game that I would give a full-fledged endorsement to, and we'll be waiting all day for Sunday night. But on Sunday night in the AFC West, what are we thinking, sir?
Yeah, JJ, I'm thrilled to take the Kansas City Chiefs laying only 3.5 points at home against the LA Chargers. But I do want to say right from the top, as a group, we're 29-23, these wise guys here.
Pretty good.
That's almost 56%. That's positive ROI for all the betting buddies out there. But look, this Chiefs minus 3.5 against the Chargers. We're going to put another one in the W column for all of you. It's an amazing moment. There's finally some value on the Chiefs. The Chiefs have not covered in 6 straight games, and they continue to play games that come down to the very last possession, no matter who they're playing. And so the football gods have looked down and given us this beautiful gift. This is really a fade of this Chargers team that is absolutely, positively, completely busted on offense since the second half of that Cincinnati game in week 11. Justin Herbert, over the past 10 quarters of football, 44 of 81, that's 54%, for 479 yards and 0 passing touchdowns. J.K. Dobbins is out. Loud McConkey is a game-time decision, and even if he plays, he's going to be hurt. The Chiefs have DJ Humphries back at left tackle. We cannot overstate how important that is. And just in general, the Chiefs own the Chargers, and the Chiefs own the AFC West. Chargers 3-18 against the Chiefs since 2014. Herbert 2-7. What do you mean?
Hey,
2-7 against
I only
the Chiefs.
follow the cues. That's it. Chiefs is the play. I'm with you, Joe House.
It's a good case. There's a lot more good stuff out there.
Oh, I'm sure there is. Very good case from Joe House. And for what it's worth, the Chargers, no business, and I mean no business, winning last week against the Atlanta Falcons. But I'm with you, buddy. Raheem, Sal is on board with the Los Angeles Rams from an offensive perspective. You're looking at this Bills-Rams game a little differently. Who do you like?
I'm going with the Buffalo Bills, minus 3.5 against the Los Angeles Rams. This line is flat out wrong. It's very reminiscent of the game in which the Bills played against the Indianapolis Colts on the road, where they also were laying 3.5. I have this line around 5.5, 6. And the Buffalo Bills are the second highest power rated team in my system. You look at the Bills, they're second in net EPA for play. The Rams are 21st. The Bills, they're lighting the world on fire behind Josh Allen with the MVP season. They scored 30 in 6 straight games. And, you know, the biggest difference between these two teams is that the Bills, they can convert on third downs. They're converting about 50% of their third downs. Meanwhile, you look at the Rams, they're only converting 24% of their third downs this year. Dead last amongst NFL teams. And a lot of sharp people in the market are looking at this Rams team with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay as being the team that they were when they won the Super Bowl, or the team that they were last year. But this team is not the same team at all. And, you know, Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, when they are the underdog, they are just 6-15 straight up. And, you know, I don't think this Rams team is going to be able to stop Josh Allen. Every time they stepped up in class this year, they got stepped on and taken into the deep waters and drowned. Look at that Eagles game. Look at that Dolphins game. Look at that Packers game. Look at that Lions game. That's the same thing that's going to happen today against the Buffalo Bills. Forget that sharp money. Sometimes it pays to be square. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills, minus 3.5.
Rolling with the guy who's going to end up being the MVP in Josh Allen. So I see where you're coming from, Dream. Last but not least, I'm looking at a line flip from a couple of weeks ago, and my guy Raheem Palmer was all over this when we did East Coast Bias, discussing the bizarre nature of Arizona and Seattle, where Seattle was a 1.5-point dog at home against the Cardinals. Now all of a sudden I'm getting Arizona at home at 2.5. Well, what am I missing here? To me, Arizona is the team to go and play in this spot. You're not going to have Kenneth Walker for the Seattle Seahawks. That's going to take away some of the physicality. Geno Smith, as spectacular as he can be throwing the football, he has been prone to throwing a couple up for grabs. I think the Arizona Cardinals take advantage of that. They outplayed Seattle in that first game if it wasn't for the Kyler Murray pick 6. And I'm going to take an Arizona team that has been very zig and zag throughout the course of this year. I'm going to take them at home. I'm going to lay the 2.5. I think Arizona comfortably today, gets right back in the thick of things here in the NFC West. This is my favorite play. We got to get off the schneid in a big way here with the wise wager. In Kyler and in Jonathan Gannon, we trust. Now, Sal, I'm rolling with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And for your SGP, you're getting involved as well.
I like everything you just said because I'm going Cardinals to win the game. I'm going Cardinals to jump out, like you said, comfortably in the first half, so they win the first half -1.5. Listen, if you watch this team, they just have not finished their drives well. So I think that's going to happen when a team like Seattle travels to Arizona. And like you said, it was a lot closer than the score indicated last time they played a couple weeks ago. You mentioned Kenneth Walker. There's injuries all over the place for Seattle. They just have to try to outscore them, which is essential to win in the NFL. Cards put up nice numbers at home, JJ. 41 on the Rams, 29 on the Bears, 31 on the Jets. I also have Kyler, 25-plus rushing. They do well on the ground. Seattle is a bottom 10 team against the run. Kyler's gone over 25 6 times this year. He had a 100-yard rushing game against Seattle a couple years back. And Connor, 3-plus receptions, 3-plus in 4 of his last 5 games. He had a 5-reception game a couple weeks ago against Seattle. So I think this mess pays plus 526, but it's pretty well correlated. So go Cards.
Well, I'll hop on that mess and make it that much more fun when everything in the late afternoon window, for me at least, is tied in to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Joe House, for your SGP, you're going with the team that is rather near and dear to your particular heart. Ain't that right, House?
It really is. It's a beautiful thing. It's positive vibes only this Week 14 moment here with your Ringer wise guys. The Pittsburgh Steelers in the same game parlay plus 514. The Steelers have been so good to us this season. I've hit with them 4 times as a dog. The cousin Sal with his Steel City special. The opponent to win the first half, Steelers to win the game. It's been magnificent throughout this season. I'm just doing some simple things here. Steelers minus 2.5 on an all spread. I'm not laying all the 6.5. That leaves the back door open. The Browns have lost 20 consecutive regular season games in Pittsburgh. Their last win came in October of 2003. Wow. So Steelers to win by less than a field goal. Okay, we can do that. Jameis over 248.5 passing yards. Yeah, Jameis Winston, we're only asking you to pass for 200 less yards than last week. His attempts will be through the roof because that's the only way that Cleveland can move the ball. They have no rushing attack. But you know who do have possess a rushing attack? That's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's Najee Harris. Over 63.5 rushing yards, and Najee Harris anytime touchdown. These go hand in hand. The Browns have been a below average in defending the rush. Bottom 10 in rushing yards allowed per game. They've given up 17 rushing touchdowns, tied for 4th amongst all teams. And Najee over 63 games in 5 of his last 7, 4 of his last 5 home games. He's over. He's an over machine on rushing yards in his last 7 games. So that's it. Plus 514, Steelers and Najee. And let Jameis throw it wherever he wants to throw it.
Let me make something clear about the Browns. Raheem, I've watched a lot of NFL football. I've had a lot of bad beats over the years. I'm still salty about what happened on Monday night. You understand where I'm coming from, Dream? I'm still sick to my stomach about that game.
I'm totally sick, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have Jameis Winston than Deshaun Watson. I mean, Jameis Winston, he'll at least get you into the game. If Deshaun Watson was out there, they might have lost that game by 20, 30 points. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, but here's the difference. If Deshaun Watson was the quarterback, I would have had my money on the Broncos, and it wouldn't have been a sweat. Sal, it was an entertaining game. It was probably one of the most fun games we've seen in the NFL this year. But when the result with 2 pick sixes and then a pick at the 2-yard line, when you got a plus 6.5 ticket, that's when you're not getting a whole lot of sleep the next day, you know?
Watson is so boring. His body language is disgraceful, and Winston gives you everything from the pregame to the postgame to in between in the game. You could go from he's going to win the game outright. Oh, no, all right, but they'll cover. Oh, no, they're not even going to cover on a teaser. The wild swings are just what makes Jameis Winston magical.
They sure are. Just not for my FanDuel account.
Right.
He set the NFL passing record when you combine his total yards with his interception yards. He threw almost 700 yards. Great. You got to appreciate that.
Great, Raheem. Great. All right, let's take a look at Bill Simmons special. You never know what you're going to get from the Podfather on a Sunday when he checks in with the wise guys here on the Ringer Sunday pregame.
No, you know what you're going to get. It's the same thing every week.
I guess so.
It's this 14 thing. Yeah.
Can you do your Simmons voice while we're at it? You might as well.
All right. I got 17 teams adjusting each line 34 points. Who loses this? I don't know, JJ. Where is it? Let me see. Where is it?
Let's see it. Do we have the graphic? Can I pull it up here? All right. He's got Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Plus 16 from Thursday.
That looks good. Yeah.
Pittsburgh plus 6. Eagles pick 'em. Kansas City plus 9. Who screws that up, Raheem?
There's only one team that could possibly screw this up, and it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I don't think they're going to screw it up, so I think he's in the money.
I think it's going to be another profitable
JJ, can you let the people know what they can get on a payout for doing the final 3?
We can work on that. I'm not going to be able to get it for you right now, but we can have our crack committee get on it and hopefully have an answer for him by the end of the show.
Yeah, because
I
know
the
people want to tell the guy, they want to tell the Podfather. I mean, you can't get Green Bay, but you can put yourself in a 3-team sweetheart teaser with the Steelers, the Eagles, and the Chiefs, and hopefully bring some holiday money in for you guys.
Well, we can mess around with that and find out. Now, in the meantime, Raheem, Deontay Lee, one of the esteemed colleagues we have over at The Ringer, I think this is the first time he's made a guest pick on the Ringer Sunday pregame. So I hope it's a winner. Welcome, Deontay. What do you got?
What's up, FanDuel TV? This is Deontay Lee of The Ringer back, and I'm here to talk about one of the most consequential games of the season and my favorite Week 13 matchup with the Los Angeles Chargers traveling to the Kansas City Chiefs. And in this game, I'm looking at the under of 42.5 points. The Chargers have gone under in 2/3 of their games up to this point. Kansas City in half. You know, if you watch the Black Friday game, Kansas City is struggling to protect Patrick Mahomes, especially on the left side of the line of scrimmage. That defense has been struggling up front over the last few weeks, and we know that the Chargers really want to pound the ball and extend possessions as much as possible. I don't expect there to be a lot of high scoring going on in this game, especially on the road in Kansas City where it may be cold. I expect this to be a low-scoring affair. For that reason, we're going with the under.
Interesting. I think that's the rational way to look at Kansas City and the Chargers, thinking it's going to be a low-scoring game, but there may be some wisdom on the show that may have me going in a different direction. But, guys, there are a couple of these this week. There are a lot of these basically every single week. But it's now time to find out where the rat sleeps, this fishiest of the fishy. Let's sniff out our rat lines. Let's get made for week number 14. All right, I'm starting the proceedings, and we hit on this game with Joe House's SGP. I think this Pittsburgh-Cleveland line stinks at 6.5. You have the Browns coming off a short week. You have the Browns and all of their terrible history in Pittsburgh. The only win they have in like the last 20-something years is when Baker Mayfield won there in a playoff game. They lose in Pittsburgh year after year after year. The Steelers are red hot. Russell Wilson is playing great. I can tease and parlay and get Pittsburgh down to pick them with ease. It just feels off to me. I'm not going anywhere near this game because I have way too much PTSD from the Jameis Winston experience and what I went through in watching that Denver game. But I am going to avoid throwing the Steelers in any money line or tease type of spots because something just smells a little off when it comes to this game. Okay, House, you're up. It's time for your rat line. What do you got?
I'm looking at this Cincinnati-Dallas Monday Night Football. We're in Dallas. The Bengals are laying 5.5 points in Dallas, and I'm not sure exactly what that's based on. Yes, the Cincinnati Bengals offense has been marvelous, unstoppable, some might say, except for their proclivity to give up turnovers at exactly the wrong time. On the other side, the Cowboys have been kind of quietly, consistently efficient. Cooper Rush plays mistake-free football, and I like them to be competitive against the Cincy defense. The Cincinnati defense is horrendous. They give up over 7 yards per play the last 3 games, and we're getting Jake Ferguson back. CeeDee Lamb's going to play. I know Zach Martin's on injured reserve, but his replacement, Brock Huffman, has been good. But here's the problem for Cincinnati. Their left tackle has been horrendous, Orlando Brown. If Micah Parsons gets going against Joe Burrow, This could be a real tight one. I'm looking at some other potential ways to play this Dallas team, but 5.5 is too many points.
I'm so done with the Bengals after last Sunday. I mean, my goodness, Joe Burrow having this spectacular season with Jamar Chase, and it's basically going to be all for naught because they don't play a lick of defense. And yet, the Bengals stink up the joint, and they're still laying 5.5 and 6 in these games. Hard to figure, see where you're coming from there. Okay, Sal, this one, I really am lockstep with you on, except I might make a play on this game because I'm a little deranged. Yeah. What's the rat?
It's so funny because you say, I am so done with the blank, and we could do that for almost every team. We're 14 weeks in, right? And it's so much easier to find what we call a rat line than it is to find a best bet because so many of these teams have screwed us over, namely the Bears and the 49ers, two teams that were expected to make the postseason before the year started. I think the Bears were probably even odds to get to 9 wins. So this game, though, is an absolute mess. So much so that millions of fantasy nerds battle to pick up Isaac Warrendo, who all of a sudden is the premier offensive player in this game. It's crazy. 49ers, too many injuries. The Bears have too many ways to blow games. I don't know how anyone, including the odds makers, can hang a number on this and feel good about either of these squads. You want to bank on some new coach energy with Chicago? Be my guest, but I think this is a stay away of all stayaways.
See, that's the reason why I'm tempted to get involved in this game. The new coach bump. They got rid of Eberflus, who is an absolute disaster and should never be an NFL head coach ever again. And we've seen this, especially with the team down in New Orleans when they hired the pride of Bergen County, Mr. Rizzi, and what kind of impact he gave the New Orleans Saints. You didn't get that necessarily from Jeff Ulbrich and the Jets, but each situation is different. Okay, Raheem, speaking of Darren Rizzi, we call that a little segue. We call that perfect symmetry for your rat line, which you can find in the swamps of Jersey. Ain't that right, Dream?
Yeah, I'm headed to New York. It's probably the only place in the world where you could actually see a rat taking home a slice of pizza in the subway. I mean, like, look at this line. You got the New York Giants. They're catching 5.5 to the Saints. You have to lay 5.5 with Derek Carr, who is 22, 39, and 2 against the spread. That's 36% against the spread as a favorite. Who wants to lay points with that guy? You look at the Saints team, they lost 7 in a row before beating the Atlanta Falcons and the Cleveland Browns. And I know it's the Giants. A lot of people are going to say, oh, they quit. They lost 7 in a row. But I just think this is too many points when you consider that the Saints are totally banged up. They lost Taysom Hill. They had already lost Chris Olave. They already lost Rashid Shaheed. They just don't have a ton of weapons at all. And I know the Giants, you look on their side of the ball, they lose Dexter Lawrence. Both of these teams aren't very good at all, and the 5.5 points is too many points. But then when you look on the Giants side, you got Drew Lock. You don't have a lot of weapons. The defense isn't very good. You don't have Dexter Lawrence. This is a complete stay away.
This is a hideous, I repeat, a hideous football game. And from what I've seen with the Giants, Raheem, they have no desire to go and give you any sort of motivation. And the biggest thing they can do over the final 4 games, I know we were talking about the quarterbacks on Saturday, not exactly being NFL worthy. Giants got to get themselves set up to get either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders or whoever it might be. They need that number 1 pick. Dexter Lawrence is out. Malik Neighbors may be out. If I'm playing this game, I'm taking the New Orleans Saints. But I get it. It's gross. Okay. It's time to transition. OMG. I can't believe we're making this bet. Sal, OMG. I can't believe you're taking a certain player prop on Monday night.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's a stay away in general, but CD Lamb to score a touchdown is plus 150. And it's weird that this is an OMG play. CD Lamb scoring a touchdown, but he in the words oh my God, are words I'd use if he scored, probably harsher if it came out of my fat mouth. But CD hasn't struck pay dirt since before Halloween. He has 1 touchdown in his last 8 games. Maybe the OMG is that this is only plus 150. It should be higher. I do think Lou Anarumo's defense, we talked about it, House talked about it, might be just what Dr. Jones ordered there. They are the worst in the league, averaging 3.4 touchdowns per game. Maybe CD grabs one of them, gets it done for me at plus 150.
Guys, I'm going against our buddy Deontay Lee when it comes to this Chargers-Chiefs game. OMG, I'm betting the over because on the surface, you'd say, wow, the Chargers may not have McConkey. They're going to try to keep it low scoring. We know Kansas City has this reputation for playing defense. the dirty little secret with the Chiefs, their defense is nowhere close to as good as it was a year ago, at least at this point in time. And I think the second time playing and matching up with the Chargers can lead to Jim Harbaugh and Andy Reid, for that matter, to be able to go and make some adjustments. I think this game is going to have more points than you think. I can't believe I'm doing it because a lot of times Charger-Chief games end up going under the total. Well, they're not going to go under the total in this case. I'm all over the over. OMG. Can't believe I'm doing it.
JJ, you know what our record is when we go against Deontay Lee and the picks? Heads up. Not good.
Oh, wow. Uh-oh. Waiting for that first one. He's either going to be batting 1,000 or
That's
0.
right.
There's no middle ground here. So hopefully I see 1,000 next to my name next week when we do this again. Okay, House, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit down on the Dallas Cowboys at plus 98, 198, their money line on Monday Night Football. Remember, Dallas is a front-runner team. They love to be on a national stage, try and not get humiliated. And at this point in the season, I think they're playing for contracts, they're playing for performance incentives, and the Bengals defense has shown itself to be gettable by every team in the entire NFL and maybe one or two teams in college football. That's how bad they've been lately. So this is not an enormous bet. I do think that Dallas's defense is going to be able to put some pressure on Burrow, and his splits under duress versus clean pocket are pretty glaring. So I think a little bit on Dallas is okay here.
Wow, sprinkle on Sal and Raheem's Cowboys on Monday night. Little sprinkle. Okay, Raheem, last but not least.
All right, I just spoke about this game being a red line, Saints versus Giants. My oh my God bet is Juwan Johnson plus 320 anytime touchdown. And you look at this game, and obviously the Saints, they have lost a lot of their weapons. They got to pass the ball to somebody. And this guy is 6'4", 231, tight end. He's a big red zone target. You look last week against the Rams, he had 7 targets for 5 receptions. The week before that against the Browns, 3 targets for 3 receptions. The week before that, 3 targets for 2 receptions. I think he's a big red zone target. So let's take a shot on Juwan Jennings plus 320 anytime touchdown.
You're confusing your JJs, Raheem. Juwan Johnson, Juwan Jennings. Listen, when they have the JJ tied to their name, you know I like them. You know they're a high quality
It's too many
individual.
J's. It's too many J's.
I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Welcome to my life being a part of the Jastremski family with John and Julie. That's
JJ, Jerry Judy
stick with
treated
JJ.
you well. Jerry Judy treated you well Monday night.
He did. The rest of the Browns, not so much.
The
We have a
other
lot more
JJs.
coming your way in this loaded Ringer Sunday pregame. The boys will get in the lab for Man's Best Bet. We have a new leader in the clubhouse for Man's Best Bet, and I'm not particularly happy about it. I got to do something about it. Hopefully, I have an underdog coming your way. We'll have our family meal, and you want to take a look at who the wise guys are going to be aligned on. We have had a lot of fun unveiling all of our picks. That's all still to come right here on YouTube TV and FanDuel TV.
Casey, the line's finally adjusted to back up what we've been watching week after week, where they haven't been covering any of these games and they've been pulling wins out of their ass. And I would have thought the line would be maybe 6.5. And
I was going to say 6.
all the
That's a
odds
6-point
makers were
game.
like, nope, we've had it with the Chiefs. It's
Well, you know
3.5.
why? The Chiefs are on a 6-game against the spread losing streak.
Right.
Incredible for a team with their winning percentage. If you look at the history, there's some great numbers out there. Action Network team was doing it. Some incredible numbers about a team with their winning percentage being on a 0-6 against the spread streak.
Yeah, and even if you look at their last 6 wins, beat the Niners by 10. That turns out to be a congratulations. Vegas by 7, Tampa by 6, Denver by 2, Carolina by 3, Vegas by 2. They beat Vegas twice by 9 points combined. And I think the odds makers have just had it. And they're like, you know what? So to me, it's a huge gambling opportunity because I don't love the hook, but it does allow us to use their money line and start combining it with stuff. But, the big thing for me with the matchup is just not sure about the Chargers at all. Their best wins I like them. I've enjoyed betting on them. I have them make the playoffs. Like they're better than a good bad team. I'm not sure they're a good team. Their best 2 wins were Denver by 7 and Atlanta by 4. Denver's the only team with a winning record they've beaten.
Yeah.
KC's defense 3rd against the run. Chargers don't have Dobbins. Their run game was non-existent last week. Chiefs at home. Chiefs kind of need to make some sort of statement at some point before we get to January. And This just feels like the week.
Welcome back to the Ringer Sunday pregame here on YouTube TV and FanDuel TV. And football fans, the season is heating up, but prices for NFL Sunday Ticket are cooling down. That's right. You can sign up for the NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV bundle for only $209. Sign up and watch every game every Sunday for the rest of the season. Terms and embargoes apply. We are back on FanDuel TV and YouTube TV. You see the guys right there. Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer, JJ, John Jastremski. Raheem, very festive sweater. I didn't even notice it. And now it's bringing out the holiday season cheering in you, buddy. I like it.
I mean, every week, you know what it is. I'm always on the Ralph Lauren polo. Same damn low sweater. What did Raekwon say? Times is rough and tough like leather, but we keep it going. So it's cold on the East Coast. Got to break out the Ralph Lauren sweater.
I love it. I had the Ralph Lauren t-shirt on the other day with the bear on it. You would have been proud of me. I'll have to rock that with you on one of these Ringer Sunday pregame shows. All right. You can get in touch with the show by leaving us a comment on YouTube, which is a ton of fun. We love the interaction. If you're watching on YouTube TV, if you're watching digitally, you can get involved in the action. Here's a YouTube comment. Can we get a future bet for the AFC and NFC South? And here's my problem with this house. For the AFC South, as much as we are not believers in the Houston Texans, the fact that Indy lost twice to the Texans, I almost think it makes it impossible for them to go win this division, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's effectively a 3-game lead for Houston because of the sweep of the head-to-heads, and there aren't enough games. There just aren't enough games. I mean, if the season had 20 games in it, and, I think Goodell's headed in that direction, then maybe the Colts could get there, but I don't think it's possible now.
And Raheem, when it comes to the NFC South, Sal, I know Simmons mentioned this and he didn't pounce. You did. I did. I got a juicy ticket on the Bucs to go and win their division. And I guess for the rest of the year, Raheem, I'm a big fan of whoever's playing the Atlanta Falcons because the Bucs don't have that tiebreaker. But if I'm looking at Tampa and I compare them to Atlanta, Tampa's playing better football at this point in time.
Here's an interesting wrinkle. If you go on FanDuel Sportsbook right now, the over-under for Atlanta's win total is 8.5. Wow. And if you look at the Bucs, their over-under is 9.5. And yet, if you look at the divisional odds, the Atlanta Falcons are the favorite because they won 2 of those games against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and have the tiebreaker. So it's going to be very interesting down the stretch to see what happens. I think Kirk Cousins is dead as fried chicken. I'll speak about that a little bit more later, but it just seems like he can't move. He's immobile, and if he's immobile and can't throw, he doesn't have any velocity on his passes, they may have to go to Michael Penix, but Michael Penix is a rookie, and throwing him in there in the middle of a playoff chase is tough. So I think the Atlanta Falcons are in a really tough spot right now.
Raheem, I'm disappointed you didn't drop a Larry Holmes status on me. I thought we were going to get that for Kirk Cousins. Thought we might.
He's definitely Larry Holmes status, flabby and sick at this point in time.
There we go. That's my boy. All right, it's time to get barking, and I'm not happy about this because there is a new leader in the clubhouse for our outright man's best bet. Let's get barking, boys. Now, Joe House, you have taken the lead from yours truly for man's best bet because you continue to keep riding the Pittsburgh Steelers. In fact, I feel like all of your outright wins have basically been the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the next time the Steelers are a dog, I am calling dibs. I'm jumping on it. I can't allow you to keep taking advantage of a team that's like 9-3 or 10-2, whatever the hell the Steelers are, and you're winning with them plus 140, plus 130, plus 150. It makes me sick. But you can't take the Steelers this week. They're not an underdog. You have the lead. You have the T-box. What's it going to be?
This may be a very short-lived lead for me, but yes, I have been with the Steelers, and I'll let you can get a taste. Steel City's been so good. More Primantis for all. I am unfortunately on the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. And there is not a case to be made in the X's and O's with this one. Just a simple observation that the Tennessee Titans should not be favored by more than a field goal against any NFL team. They are an abject clown act. I watched them last week prepare, scheme, and try and execute against Washington. It was a disaster. They were down 28-0 before I sat down with my first plate of nachos. Yes, the Jaguars have lost 15 of their past 18 games overall. And yes, the Jaguars have 9 straight road losses going back to last season, the longest active streak in the NFL. But they are 5-1 against the spread in their past 6 games, which shows competitiveness. And they damn near came all the way back from being down 17 against Houston. And Mac Jones, who's playing for his NFL career, showed some good chemistry with wide receiver Parker Washington. He just missed Brian Thomas Jr. on a deep one. If they get anything at all inside with Tank Bigsby and Etienne running, then this will be a dogfight. And in a dogfight, I'll take my chances. Very quietly, the market seems to be in agreement because this money line price has dropped 10 points over the past 36 hours from near plus 150 all the way down to plus 138. That's implied probability moving in the correct direction. Will Levis as a favorite is a joke. Will Levis 1-5 straight up and against the spread in divisional games after beating the Texans a couple weeks ago. Will Levis as a favorite 1-3 straight up and against the spread. This is just an opportunity to take 2 teams that are in the same abysmal class and take the dog.
Getting gross with Jacksonville, but I like that the market is moving with my buddy Joe House. Now, Mr. Raheem Palmer, you're about to give a pick that's really going to make me sick to my stomach if you are correct. And I love you dearly. I just hope you're not correct on this one. What's your man's best bet?
New York, New York, big city of dreams. Everything in New York ain't always what it seems. Look, you look at the New York Jets, and I'm taking them on the money line, plus 220. They've been overvalued all year long. They were laying 1.5 against Seattle, 4 against the Colts, 2 against the Cardinals, 2.5 against the Texans, -7 against the Patriots. So I know they've been overvalued, but how could they be catching 6.5 against this 5-7 Dolphins team? That does not make any sense. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, Sauce Gardner isn't playing. Breece Hall isn't playing. I don't care if Breece Hall isn't playing. They can't run the ball anyway. They're averaging 87 rushing yards per game, so it doesn't matter if Breece Hall is playing. Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson are still out there, and they're taking on a Dolphins secondary who they're all in the hospital. You saw that game against the Green Bay Packers. The Packers didn't even bother to run the ball because the Dolphins secondary was so bad. So if you ask me, the plus 220 that you're getting in the market right now, the Jets have a far bigger chance than 31% chance to win this game. So I think this is just a numbers play. For all of this year, the Jets were overvalued. Now we've swung totally in the opposite direction. And we've just gone from one extreme to the next. The Jets are 6 points worse than the Miami Dolphins. Give me the Jets on the money line. I'm just playing the number here.
Wow, there you go. Thank you, Robert De Niro. I needed that because as much as Raheem is giving us astute analysis, and he is, I understand his point. Jets overvalued, now maybe undervalued. For my sanity, I cannot sit there and watch Aaron Rodgers beat my team and end my season. Not today, not today, not today. I have some thoughts on that Jet Dolphin game a little bit later on. Sal, what do we got for a dog?
I just have to say, with you being out there to see your favorite team and you crushing the Jets, rightfully so, as you have in the last few weeks, we should all bet the Dolphins, because if we lose with it, it will still be so funny we won't even feel the effect of losing money, because poor JJ has to sit and watch that.
Thanks, Sal. Thanks, Sal. Appreciate that.
It's a compliment, ultimately. But here,
he's gonna watch the Dolphins lose, and then next week he gets to watch Aaron Rodgers on his Netflix documentary next week. So he's gonna be tortured.
See, I thought you were gonna troll me, Raheem, by saying the Dolphins are gonna lose and then Juan Soto's gonna sign with the Mets. So I'm gonna have more egg in my face.
I'm not that cruel. I'm not that cruel.
Okay.
I have an upset here. Falcons money line. We talked about Falcons versus Bucks. And here's the thing. Our buddy, here's the bigger picture. Of the three narratives that we walk into every week, two of them go to crap, right? Oh, the Lions have too many injuries on defense. They allow less than 300 yards to the Packers. We might think the Jets suck. Oh, and they have injuries. They could end up winning. Mine is this Kirk Cousins thing. Let's remember, it was only a few weeks ago he threw 5 touchdown passes. And you can't, I know Simmons is getting on us for betting bad teams, but you can't both say the Vikings are the most overrated team in football and the Falcons is a bad underdog pick. You can't say that. Simmons could say both. I'm just kidding. You can't have it both ways. Cousins threw for fewer than 36 miles per hour, which is not good for a quarterback. But like I said, 5 touchdowns just a few weeks ago. I think he steps it up against his former team. We know Minnesota isn't blowing anyone out anytime soon, so it's probably a one-score game. And by the way, unlike Joe House, they are a terrible defensive squad. 7-1 against the spread, not defensive, just overall. In the last 8 in December, I'm going to take my chances. One-score game. I think the Falcons pull off the upset. But just go with Joe House. He's going to run the table here in December with the Dogs. Jags is
it's a good spot to take Atlanta from desperation. Minnesota maybe being a little overvalued here. House, curiously, we did East Coast bias, and it seemed like Minnesota was going to be your stone cold wise wager pick of the week. Why did you decide to audible out of curiosity?
Because that Chiefs number is incredible. Like 3.5 for the Chiefs against the Walking Dead Chargers. Just like that might be my favorite bet of the year. I could have come on and said,
wow.
Now, I mean, my wise wager record isn't great, but my overall picks record is pretty gosh darn good.
Very
good. I just see with this Chiefs thing, I mean, I do think Minnesota is going to stomp Atlanta, and I think Atlanta is a little snake bit. You can get Kirk Cousins going. Is Young Ho Koo going to kick a field goal and make one that matters to the team? I mean, there's just something going on with Atlanta.
Guys, last but not least, and I know Raheem is not going to like this one, and I'm actually siding with the quote-unquote sharp money, which hasn't necessarily been a good thing this year. But I think it's a good spot to take the Rams and roll the dice that maybe they can win the game outright. I know Buffalo looks like the best team in the AFC. I know Josh Allen's playing out of his mind. The Rams are right there in the NFC West. Buffalo coming off the snow game. Buffalo coming off a bunch of emotional games, now going out to the West Coast. And I get it. That Ram offensive line leaves a lot to be desired. The Ram defense has not played great. But can I see a turn back the clock moment for Matthew Stafford with his season on the line? I can. I'm not going to be stunned. And let's put it this way. Buffalo, look ahead. Detroit next week, a potential Super Bowl preview. They're sending the NFL today. It's this big ballyhoot experience that we're going to hear about all next week. Maybe they are caught sleeping in this particular game. I didn't love the underdogs this week. Hey, I get ridiculed for taking bad teams all the time. I'm taking a Hall of Fame quarterback and a tremendous coach and rolling the dice that maybe the Rams can go and pull off an upset. Now, it really is, Sal, JJ versus Raheem. We might as well get the boxing gloves
You're trolling
on.
each other. He took a Hall of Fame quarterback too, except he's not playing like a Hall of Famer anymore. Hasn't been for a year.
I got an opportunity to go mano-a-mano with Raheem once again here, because my SGP is going to feature the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. I'm down in South Florida. The weather is glorious. I'm taking the Dolphins to win. I'm not messing with the points. Tyreek Hill has not scored a touchdown going back to, 2 weeks ago. He had that nice streak for 3 in a row. I think he makes it 4 out of 5. Give me Tyreek to go and score. Garrett Wilson, I think a lot of attention will be on Devontae Adams. He'll get 50-plus receiving yards. And then Devon Achane against that dismal Jets run D. 50-plus rushing yards. That parlay, little over 5-1. I like it, I like it, I like it. So we got 3 parlays down. We got 1 more to go. Dream, what's it going to be?
Okay, we're going to go with the Minnesota Vikings -5.5. We're also going to go with Sam Darnold over 225 passing yards. We're going to go with Justin Jefferson over 83.5 receiving yards. And then Justin Jefferson, anytime touchdown. And look, we already spoke about Kirk Cousins. He doesn't seem to be playing well. He's immobile. So I think the Vikings should be able to cover this number. But if you look at the Falcons' defense, they're 25th in schedule-adjusted pass defense. So I think Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson should have a big day. And they're surrendering the 4th most receptions and 2nd most touchdowns per game to wide receivers. So I'm expecting a big day out of the Minnesota Vikings. That's my same game parlay. It pays plus 430 to 1.
Juicy, Raheem, juicy. I don't know if I'm with you there with the Vikings laying the 5.5, but I might fool around and just take the Vikings to win. And I'll lower my payout a little bit, but, that's something I might consider between now and 1 o'clock. Okay, we have our second guest pick, guys, and we're getting somebody from the basketball world who's going to now involve themselves in the Ringer Sunday pregame. Do they have a winner? That's all we care about. Do you have a winner, or are you going to be entertaining? J. Kyle Mann, let's hear it, baby.
Hey guys, it's Kyle Mann. Just world-renowned NFL expert. People are constantly pestering me. They're like, Kyle, explain the NFL to us. And I decline because I just don't have the time to explain it to you guys. But my pick this week is I'm going to pick Chuba Hubbard, who's sneaky been pretty solid this year, maybe an unsung, hero running the ball this year for the Panthers. The Eagles' run defense has been pretty good, but I actually think that Chuba is going to get one in on him. I think he's got the acumen to do that, and he's my pick to score a touchdown tomorrow in that Eagles-Panthers game. So
Chuba Hubbard anytime touchdown. Fair enough. I hope it's a winner. Now, this would have been a nice little wrinkle for what we're about to do. We're still waiting to hit on one of these. We got a couple more weeks to do it. Actually, we still have the postseason, so we got a little bit of time. But let's get in the kitchen and let's figure out the Week 14 family meal. Now, to start it off, Sal, it's been hard enough to hit one of these.
Yeah.
You now are going to make it that much more difficult on us by not just taking one play to score 1 touchdown. He's got to go and score 2. So why are we doing this?
Well, it's not just one player. It's potentially the best offensive player or best player in the league in Saquon Barkley. And you see that, JJ, his MVP odds are starting to shrink. The distance is starting to shrink. He's plus 500. There's some buzz with him. If he breaks the record, absolutely he should get it over Josh Allen. There's a lot of back and forth. But one thing's for sure. This is a good stat padding game. I don't know if Philadelphia versus Carolina is something I want to bet because I feel like Carolina is due for a beating, and I'm not sure Philadelphia gets up for this game. So I'm going to take Barkley 2 or more touchdowns at plus 180. It's jumped up back and forth between plus 180 and plus 200 because I feel like this tush-push is nice, but Barkley might say behind closed doors, hey, guys, I'm close to this MVP. How about you give me the ball? How about I get to stick my beak in the end zone a couple times this week? And he's done it anyway. He really has. 32nd in the league scoring defense for Carolina. They've allowed 41 touchdowns. 18 of those were rushing touchdowns. And by the way, he could catch one too, and this would still count for 2+ touchdowns. I like it at plus 180.
A plus 180 play from a guy who's probably going to finish second in the MVP balloting, but he should be the offensive player of the year. So plus 180 right out of the gate. Could end up being a home run. We shall see. I'm going to be disgusted if he only scores 1, Sally. I'm just telling you now.
So am I. I have a lot of money on it, so yeah, I'll be more disgusted.
Better get 2. Now, we go from Saquon Barkley, who is basically the equivalent of a medium rare Peter Lucas steak spectacular. Now we're going to the Mayo department. Will Levis. Is that what we're going for him?
Yeah, I'm bringing a Nashville hot chicken sandwich to the table. We're going to go with Will Levis, over 214 passing yards. They're taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. This Jaguars defense cannot stop a nosebleed. 32nd in dropback EPA per play. 30th in dropback success rate. Dead last in passing yards allowed at 273. So at 214 and a half, you're getting a bargain, especially with Will Levis, who's been playing much better since he came back from injury. Since he came back from injury, he's averaging 261 passing yards per game. So let's go over. Get some of that Nashville hot chicken. Me personally, I don't want a pickle on my Nashville hot chicken, but if you want it, that's cool with you. Just give me some blue cheese and make it hot as possible.
I'm with you with the no pickles. I don't even need the blue cheese, Raheem. If I got that beautiful chicken, I'll let the chicken be the star of the show. So we'll see if your Will Levis pick fits that description. Now, Joe House, we're getting involved with a wide receiver prop. I like it. Who we thinking about?
Well, it's amazing. We're staying right in Nashville, and the combination, the beautiful combo of the Dreams Will Levis pick plus my Calvin Ridley over 65 and a half receiving yards pick, minus 110, but we're looking for a four-way to get done here. That is the other famous dish right there in Nashville. It's the meat plus 3. It's the meat and 3. It's supposed to be meat and 3 vegetables, but we do macaroni and cheese. We do you don't have to, go too healthy with it. But here we are. We have the meat with Will Levis and Calvin Ridley. Dream just went through the numbers on the worst pass defense in the league. We have the nice narrative of Calvin Ridley going up against his former team, and we'll go a little technical. Jacksonville plays man coverage on 36% of their passing plays. That's a very high rate against man coverage. Ridley gets targets from Will Levis, and when he catches it, he's nearly 3 yards per route run. So we like him getting the routes and getting to 66 receiving yards here.
Well, gents, I'm going to stick with a wide receiver prop as well. And Raheem hit on this when we talked about the Saint Giant game. You got to find guys that Derek Carr is going to throw the football to. All of a sudden, Marquez Valdez-Scantling has gotten involved in that offense. He's made a couple of big plays. I'm going to take Valdez-Scantling, small number, over 34 and a half receiving yards. All he's got to do is hit one of those bombs 20, 30 yards down the field. You might hit it on one pass play. Give me Valdez-Scantling with a beat-up Saint team to go and stay hot. Now, let's take a look at what we cooked up for our Week 14 family meal. Let's see it. Sal going with Saquon Barkley, 2+ touchdowns. Will Levis over 214 passing yards. We have that. Calvin Ridley over 65 and a half receiving yards. And then from yours truly, Marquez Valdez-Scantling over 34 and a half. Little under 13-1. I like it, guys. Okay, we go from our family meal, and now let's take a look at who's in and who's out. Let's see the scratches for week number 14. Malik Neighbors, he's going to play for the New York Giants. George Pickens, this is a big one, guys. This came out of nowhere. He's out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Interesting. Talked about Breece Hall, talked about Kenneth Walker. House, I feel like you have been all over the Steeler train. This Pickens injury, does this change the calculus at all on this game or not really?
No, well, it was factored into my handicap in the same game parlay that I offered up to everybody, which was a lot of Najee Harris touches, Najee Harris yards, Najee Harris anytime touchdown. But this is, classic AFC North kind of situation. You don't see, notwithstanding that Cincinnati debacle, every team that goes against Cincinnati turns in these enormous passing games. I like this, Pittsburgh playing its, ball control offense here and just trying to go down the field. So I still like Pittsburgh to get the job done in terms of an outright win.
Fair enough. Okay, let's get to our anytime touchdowns. Last week, hit 3 out of 4. Somebody didn't hold up their end of the bargain. Who are you looking at? Yeah, the guy in South Florida at the moment. Sal, you're going to that Giants-Saint game, interestingly enough. Who we like for an anytime?
Yeah, I feel like we've already talked way too much about this Giants-Saint game, but I have to add another 30 seconds here. Tyron Tracy, not a bad little player out of Purdue. One of the few, maybe 1 or 2 bright spots for the Giants all year long. He scored on Thanksgiving. He scored in 4 of his last 7 games. He's up against the Saints' 26th ranked run defense. They've allowed 15 rushing touchdowns, also 26th in the league in that department. I'm going to go Tyron Tracy to score a touchdown plus 110. Giants trust him by the goal line. If only they could get there.
Raheem, we know the Bills are your wise wager. You have an anytime touchdown in that game, though.
Yeah, I'm going to go with James Cook, minus 145 anytime touchdown. The Rams give up the 4th most rushing yards per game, the 24th in rushing success rate, 20th in rushing EPA. So I think James Cook should have a monster day. He should get into that end zone.
Guys, I'm looking at Taylor's boyfriend for our anytime touchdown. And I think there are certain games where you feel good about taking the beautiful, shiny sports car, or that rugged SUV that's all tinted up and all ready to rock for the winter, out for a spin. I think this game on Sunday Night Football with the world watching is that sort of opportunity for the Chiefs to get Travis Kelce back involved in the party. I am taking Taylor's boyfriend to go and score a touchdown, and I think we'll see Miss Taylor maybe shaking it off as she is in her little luxury suite. All right, House, last but not least.
I'm on Rico Dowdell anytime touchdown. This is Dallas once again on my game card here. And it comes down to two things. The Bengals, with their atrocious rush defense, have allowed 12 touchdowns to running backs. Rico is by far the dominant back in this Dallas backfield. He's handled 85% and 86% of the backfield touches over the last couple games. Back-to-back strong outings. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield and score. He has that on his scorecard. But linebacker Logan Wilson for the Bengals, he missed last week's game. He's out for the season. By far the best run defender on Cincinnati. Top 5 in the NFL among linebackers. Not on the field for an already bereft Cincinnati Bengals run defense. Give me Rico to get one done.
A lot of anytime touchdowns. Maybe we'll go 4 for 4 this week. Fingers crossed. Remember, FanDuel has bettors covered this NFL Sunday with a host of profit boost tokens to choose from, including the great double your winnings boost. Make sure you opt in on FanDuel so you can apply the different boosts to your favorite bets throughout the day. You can get involved Sunday, 25% SGP, SGP plus profit boost on any game, and then you can get involved Monday Night Football, 30% to catch a pass profit boost token. Gotta love that. Now, we have fun on this show, and this has become a weekly staple now of the Ringer Sunday pregame. I'm glad we're doing this. Let's take a look at who everybody is on for the Week 14 card. Sal, Raheem had to be that guy and be the only one to take the Jets, huh?
I don't know why he doesn't like you. It seems like you guys get along during the week on the various shows and everything, but obviously there's something out there between you two.
Well, Raheem, I think you're just trying to make things difficult for me. You're just really trying to poke the bear a little bit, you know?
I mean, I didn't poke you about y'all about to lose Juan Soto, so we're still on good terms.
Oh, no. Can I see that graphic one more time? Sal, you're the only one on the Titans today.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with me. I know, I get it, House's point that Titans shouldn't be giving points to anyone, but they quietly have one of the best defenses in the league, and I just watched Mac Jones overthrow and underthrow and do everything he could to barely cover that game last week. But I have to say, we've done pretty well, even though we were only 2-2 last week. When the masses are asses, they're usually really, it's really bad. So when we are all on the same team, it's done well, and that's tough to do for a quartet.
And you must love the fact, Joe House, that your wise wager got a full-fledged endorsement, as did mine.
Yeah, we're in the right spot here, JJ. That might be a nice parlay, in fact. A little money line parlay, the Arizona Cardinals and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we're on the right side with both of those, and those are both good numbers. I think we're Week 14 is bringing out our best, JJ. It's time for us to catch up with these boys.
We need to step up and step up in a big way. So I will actually take that parlay and ride together with my guy, Joe House. Cardinals, Chiefs. Let's get the guys in the rear making a move at the end of the year for at least some respectability. That's going to do it for me. I'm going to enjoy some sunshine, get ready for Aaron Rodgers and Tua and the Miami Dolphins. Anthony DeBundo is going to join you five fellas. So I need to get my tan on. I need to get my fins on. Enjoy the rest of the Ringer Sunday pregame. Anthony DeBundo coming up right after this.
I've watched a few of these Bears games.
Yeah.
And they've had some lows, right? They've had some games where they just look awful. But
I get your point.
They've also had some pretty good moments and stretches and halves, and I think they figured out something with Caleb the last couple of weeks with just having him get rid of the ball faster. Defense can create some pressure. I don't know. I think they could win this game. It feels like a 3-point game. To me, the bigger thing is this is a zag against a Niners team that feels like the season is going in the wrong direction. Not just like not making the playoffs, but like it's like just kind of edging toward, hey, are we sure Kyle Shanahan should be the coach next year?
Oh, you
I think
can't really
Niners,
do. Can we
how
do
many
that?
Niners fans have you talked to? Yeah, that in the Niners fans worlds, there's a lot of Kyle Shanahan consternation right now.
I mean, they literally got what 2/3 of a legit game out of McCaffrey over 13 games.
I'm not saying it's rational. I'm just saying.
I mean, he's literally the most important player in the league. Like he's in the conversation for offensive player of the league every year that he's healthy. Well, I don't know, taking that guy out of the mix. It seems like it, but
and they lose Ayuk. Their
yeah.
defense isn't the same.
No,
we see this in football every year with at least one team and sometimes two. The pedigree team that either just has way too many injuries or gets old. And we just sit there I went against the Niners in that Packers game. Like I've had success going against them, betting against them because I just don't think they're good.
Welcome back to the Ringer pregame show. We're on YouTube TV. We have another 30 minutes for you, whether you like it or not. Hey, FanDuel Sunday Ticket. Here we go. Can't believe it's week 14. Actually, I can believe it. It's been a long season, but it's heating up. Prices are cooling down for NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. Sign up for only $209 for the rest of the season. Watch every game every Sunday with game day features like Multi-View and Fantasy View included. Terms and embargoes apply. The embargoes have to apply. There's nothing we could do about it. And there's nothing we could do about this. Look who we have in studio. He's a Colts fan, but unlike the Colts, he has not taken this week off. You could see him on the hook with Raheem Palmer, Paper Chasers with Austin Gale. I think he does like a Bronny G League podcast with Jay Kyleman. I'm not sure. He's all over the Ringer Gambling Network. Anthony DeBundo, what's happening, buddy?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I did catch some of Timothy Chalamet's performance yesterday as the guest picker. So I have some really, really big shoes to fill that I'm not sure that I can live up to the hype, but I'm going to give it my best effort.
Okay, good. That's all we could expect from you because we don't give it our best effort. We give it like 30, 40%. When you say that, House, we're happy with that.
That's about right. And I would say that, well, I don't want to insult Anthony right away, but I do want to just comment on how handsome Timothy Chalamet is. We won't compare him to DeBundo, though.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
We don't have to put the Lee Corso big stuff mascot head on him. All right. I do want to get into this with you, Raheem. It just came down about 10 seconds ago. You could have bet SMU or Alabama to make the playoffs. The last thing FanDuel showed was SMU minus 720. We got comments on YouTube about it, and Alabama plus 440. And then you announced, I don't know if you broke it, but it came out. You could still bet on it while you announced this. Tell us what's going on now.
So, Brett Murphy, Action Network, myself and Anthony DeBundo's former employer, he announced that SMU is in the college football playoff. Alabama is out. And, just about 45 seconds ago, you could have gotten SMU minus 720.
Yeah.
If you go back to 20 minutes ago, you could have gotten SMU plus 550. And, it was a great arbitrage opportunity. This is why you have to be in tune to what's going on your Twitter timeline, because you could have gotten both sides at plus money within the last 20, 30 minutes and made a free profit on FanDuel Sportsbook. But SMU is in the college football playoffs. They came back from 17 points yesterday, and the committee rewarded them.
Big comeback.
we've ever seen a time where the committee got scooped, where somebody leaked out to a reporter. Like, imagine if the March Madness bracket got released early.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and a bigger overall statement is how the SEC, everyone's going to say how the SEC got screwed here, but please, Alabama, you scored 3 against Oklahoma. We could go into this. Speaking of bad teams, DeBundo, you're hitting us with one right off the bat. I don't know if this is like we talked about with House, putting your best foot forward, but give us your wisest wager.
So I was actually between Cleveland and Vegas, and I decided that no Jameis Winston wager can truly be the wisest of your wagers. So I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders plus 6.5 today against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 105 at FanDuel. I think that the Bucs have kind of been an interesting team, and they're the ultimate play up, play down team this year, where they should have really lost to Carolina last week. They've beaten Detroit, they've beaten Philly, but the one constant has been that their secondary has been pretty bad most of the season. And I think that's a favorable matchup for a Raiders offense that has found passing success. I know they lost each of the last 2 weeks, but the Raiders outgained Denver, had more first downs than Denver 2 weeks ago, and then dominated the box score against the Chiefs. So yes, Pierce, his late game management, we don't really trust him. We don't really trust this Raiders team, but they can get pressure on Mayfield. Mayfield is second in the league in turnover-worthy plays, and I think this is going to be a close one down to the wire yet again, as Tampa seems to do every week, regardless of who they're playing.
This is an interesting one, House, because we didn't go over it in the first hour, right? This game, we talked about the Bucs and their NFC South odds and everything else. But with the Raiders, I feel like they're going to lose no matter what. Do they lose in spectacular fashion like they did against the Chiefs? Or is it going to be like some of those games DeBundo talked about like 3 weeks ago against the Dolphins, where they grinded, and then they're just down 15 by the time the gun sounds?
Well, I have detected in my research perhaps the weirdest stat of the entire week, which is guess what Aiden O'Connell's record is against the spread when he's the starting quarterback.
It's pretty good, right?
I won't guess because I saw the stat.
Yeah, 11. Yeah, you guys obviously, the pros know it's he's 11-2 against the spread.
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell, and there is something in terms of his ability to push the ball vertical. AD hit it properly. The Tampa defense is vulnerable on that back end. So, I mean, I think it's the right play. I don't mind grabbing the numbers here.
All right. I'm not going to make fun of his pick because we have a quartet that's suspect, to say the least, of wisest wagers. Can we pull these up here? This is what we did. Me, House, Raheem, and JJ. Wisest wagers of the day. And what do you think here? Let's start with Raheem's. Anthony, what do you think of the Bills minus 3.5? He and I are kind of clashing. It's smart by him because he's 2 games off the pace, and he could pretty much gain 1 back if we have a Buffalo route here. What do you think of that game in general?
So I'm not sure what to make of Matt Stafford, and that's the question that I think is kind of hovering over this game, why I haven't bet it. He did leave with like an ankle injury last week, and then they said he's totally fine, but we've seen Stafford play through injury and not be effective in the past. And so that's the scariest albatross for me in this game. And the other thing is that, the Rams were 1-4 last year, and they came back and made the playoffs. They started 3-6. They won, 7 of their last 8 because their offense was elite. They were a top 5 offense. This year, they're kind of winning games, but it's not pretty. I mean, their offense is not at the same level that it was last year. So for me, I would probably lean toward Buffalo just based on that, but no play for me on that one.
Raheem, you don't worry about a Buffalo letdown. I've been worried about it forever, and it just doesn't happen. But I don't know that they run the table the rest of the week. Or you don't think this is a trap at all, huh?
No, I don't. I actually think they're going to be, pretty focused. It's always so funny because I think we as analysts, we create these narratives. And I've heard a number of analysts say, oh, this is a sandwich spot. Like as if, they're going to be more motivated against San Francisco and Detroit than they will be against the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me. That's just something that people come up with. So, to me, I was on the Los Angeles Rams last week. You guys remember that was my wisest wager. And while we're in the text thread, I'm like, yo, this Rams team is not good. And we were very fortunate to get out of that game with the win. And I think if Taysom Hill doesn't get hurt, I think the Saints might get into the end zone, probably go for 2 and win that game outright. So I'm looking at Josh Allen. He's at the top of his game right now. They should be able to run the ball with James Cook. I just think this Rams team, they're being overvalued in the market and treated as if they were the Super Bowl team or the team that we saw last year, and that's just not the case. So I just think there's a ton of value here.
I thought about that a lot. That's why I went Rams over 2.5 touchdowns. Let the Bills score 40. Maybe I could still catch the other side if the Rams get 3 scores. All right, and House took the Chiefs minus 3.5 to Bundo. What do you think of that? Do they cover? This is a team that doesn't seem interested in covering ever, laying points against a team they usually beat up.
So the McConkey thing is the big X factor. I mean, assuming he's going to play, but I'm not sure what he is at this point in terms of health. And that's a huge thing. I mean, he had 117 of the 147 receiving yards that the Chargers had last week. Their run offense has never been good. Even with Dobbins, it was kind of a little bit of just like an explosive play here or there, but like down to down, it wasn't great. And last week, they couldn't do anything against an Atlanta team that I'm not particularly high on, relatively been down on the Falcons all year. So I totally see the case for the Chiefs. But the problem is, I don't really trust their defense anymore. And that was the one thing that you could always rely on the last year and a half, and that just hasn't been true. So I get the spot is good for Kansas City. They get the extra rest. I don't really know how the Chargers consistently score through the air without McConkey, but also if he is healthy, they might torch this secondary. So this one I would lean with House as well.
All right, listen, it's time to eat. It's dessert time already, House. I can't believe it. We're putting together a Sunday. It's 9:09 on the West Coast, but we do this. We put together the Hot Fudge Sunday. We sprinkle together big odds, and by big odds, we say plus 200 or greater. Let me start it off, and then we put it together, and it's a parlay that's basically unwinnable. But let me start it off with something that does seem like it could happen. Joe Burrow, 325 plus passing yards on Monday night. Not sure why this is so high. You can get plus 350 for this. Has FanDuel not watched the Cowboys defense? Malik Hooker, Jordan Lewis barely practiced this week. Burrow's already hit 325 plus against the Chargers and the Ravens twice. He knows he needs to put this team on his back to win. He's got the horses with Higgins and Chase and Gesicki even. And the best part is the Bengals secondary is so bad that this could just go back and forth. I think the haircut starts working this week for the Bengals. They notched their 5th win of the season. Wow. But Burrow, more specifically, 325 plus passing yards. All right, Raheem, you're going to that Bills game again. James Cook, 90 plus yards.
I'm putting all my chips in on the Buffalo Bills. James Cook, 90 plus yards. I mean, the Rams this season, they're they allowing the 4th most rushing yards per game at 144 rushing yards per game. They're 24th in rushing EPA per play, 20th in rushing success rate. You look at some of the starting running backs in which the Rams have played. They gave up 255 yards rushing to Saquon Barkley. They gave up 122 yards to James Conner. They gave up 112 yards to Alvin Kamara. They gave up 93 yards to DeAndre Swift. I think the Buffalo Bills, James Cook, get behind this offensive line. I think you can get 90-plus rushing yards here, especially if the Bills get off to, a huge lead and are just running out the clock at some point.
All right, that's a good one. Plus 285. House, give it some more love with this Kansas City game. What do you got?
Yeah, I fudged the rules here a little bit. I put a parlay inside of a parlay, so this is going to end up being a 5-legger, but it's Justin Herbert under 234.5 passing yards alongside the Chiefs minus 6.5 in an alt spread capacity. That's a plus 227 in its own right, this little parlay. And look, the Chargers passing game, we've talked about it. The past 10 quarters of football, Herbert not even 55% in terms of completion percentage and well under 500 yards and no touchdowns. I mean, they passed for under 150 yards last week in the passing game. And I just think that this Kansas City Chiefs team is ready to bust. The line for week 4 between the Chiefs and the Chargers, when the Chargers were healthy on offense, was 7 points. And the Chiefs, it ended up being a push. The Chiefs won by 7. Now, laying only 3.5, that makes it a best bet. But go ahead in the alt spread, lay the 6.5. I think they're going to do it. Even if McConkey plays, he's less than 100%. I don't know how the Chargers score here. I don't know how they get to 17 points.
Oh, Mike, Justin Herbert has 47 yards passing through 3 quarters. I still love the guy. I got to tell you. That's going to be a fun Sunday night one. All right, the bundle. This guy, he's not going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but good solid receiver off the bat, right?
The fun thing about the Chiefs, by the way, if they do cover, it's like, oh, how could we doubt the Chiefs? And if they don't cover, it's like, how could you bet on the Chiefs? So they're the perfect Schrodinger's team. But anyway, I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. to score a touchdown, plus 220 at FanDuel. This game could go 2 ways. It could either be the worst game you've ever watched, which is definitely possible. Titans-Jags, don't even have a multi-view on, like the planned multi-view. It does not include Titans Jags. But it also, these games tend to be weird. And I think that is what I'm leaning into here, where these two teams are totally out of it. The defenses could just kind of give in. And all of a sudden you look up and Levis and Mac Jones are carving up these defenses that are not very good. Tennessee's defense has taken a real slide in the last month in terms of the numbers. So I think this is a good matchup for Thomas, especially if they're playing from behind, because he's been targeted a ton. And really, Mac Jones missed him on some deep balls last week, but he's getting a lot of targets in this offense. So Thomas Jr. plus 220.
You think it's Mac Jones? He's an Alabama guy, just doesn't want to throw to an LSU kid. I could see it. Maybe it's a little form of protest. I'll underthrow you. I'll overthrow you. All right, so this Hot Fudge Sunday, the odds, if you parlay all four, plus 2, 5, 0, 8, 9. My God, it's like the Jerry Lewis telethon here. That's pretty damn good, 250 to 1. Plus, did we get a little nutty with this, Raheem? Which one would you get rid of if we had to?
Which one would I get rid of? I like all of them. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's the only one that scares me is the Chiefs alternate spread. That's the only one.
All right. Well,
I know it's the last game too. Oh no, it's not the last game. I was gonna say, because if it's late and the Chiefs are winning by like 10 and Herbert's just putting in together garbage time yards, I'm gonna be really upset.
What do you mean? Oh, it's the last one today.
You know what, though?
It's out for the week.
I just have this strange feeling about this Chiefs game. I think it's probably either a blowout or the Chargers win outright.
Really?
I don't. Yeah, it feels like House is on the money on this, because I agree with him on the Chiefs, but it just feels like, on another hand, it almost feels like Harbaugh with the Chargers hasn't had that signature win yet. Like, every time they stepped up in class, they got beat, and they got beat down pretty badly. So at some point in time, you know the signature win is going to come. I just don't know when it's going to come, especially this week when I don't know if Ladd McConkey is he's healthy or not. J.K. Dobbins is out. So I tend to lean on the side of House, but I know that signature win is coming at some point. I just don't know when.
All right, so Raheem, educate the novice gamblers out there. I like doing this with the NBA playoffs because I feel like there's variance and there's blowouts all over the place. If you took the Chargers at plus 172 and then took Kansas City minus 9.5 at plus 196, I know it's not a huge return, but you are rooting for two specific results that are, like you said, might correlate.
That's tough for me. Because I never want to put myself in a position to where I can lose both bets. I'm the type of person to where, look, I'm scared, but I'm the type of person to where I like to bet the live markets. I think that is the biggest advantage we have now as bettors, is that we can watch the game and literally bet on it throughout the game. And it's just like, that's a huge advantage. You can catch a team who is, catching 3.5 points, and you could catch them at 7 or 8 or 10, and you can get even crazier odds on them and on the money line. You look at that Texas versus Georgia game yesterday. Texas absolutely dominated the entire first half and couldn't put Georgia away. And then you just kind of knew that Georgia was eventually going to find their way. You can get good numbers. So that's kind of how I like to approach things.
All right. That's good. I'm not going to argue with you. We talked about the Seattle-Arizona game. The Cardinals are given 2.5 at home. The Bundo against the Seahawks. They played a couple of weeks ago. The Seahawks won that one. I like the Cardinals a lot. I feel like the whole crew of us, most of us, like the Cardinals. I don't like that everybody likes the Cardinals. What are your reservations in this game?
Seattle's morphing into an elite defense right before our eyes. Last 4 games, they're a top 5 across EPA, and by EPA on third down, they're a top 3 defense throughout the season. So this defense has really come along. The concern for me is the Seattle offense now. They're bottom 8 EPA the last month, and they're losing a lot of explosiveness. DK Metcalf, since coming back from injury, has not been the same level of explosive threat, and so they've kind of been in the mud offensively. Now they don't have Ken Walker today. So I think this game is a textbook under for me. The Cardinals defense has overperformed all year long, and divisional rematches do tend to go under the spread, or the total. So I do like the under here. Not a huge bet for me, but if I had to play a side, I'm still riding with my Seattle boys. Been on them all year to win the division, hoping to get this ticket to the window. I just really like Mike McDonald and their defense. So
I wonder, House, if you take Seattle to win the division, what's it bet? Because if they win this game, they're kind of walking away from the pack here. They're plus 145 to win the division. Arizona is plus 180. But I think you have something else for Anthony.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've kind of beat this Chiefs Chargers game to death, but we haven't talked about the total. And you just hit on the notion that when teams match up a second time in a divisional situation, it tends to be an under. It's already a very low number, 42.5. And I feel like there's a possibility with this Chiefs team, the return of DJ Humphrey on the left side could be like transformative. They've been so vulnerable there, pass rush wise. We've seen Mahomes like just, running. Does that factor into it all, the cap of how to handle the total here?
So these quarterbacks are too good for this total to be getting down to 42 is where I stand on this game. It's like at some point, yes, Kansas City's offense has not been as good as it is in the past, but they're still a very high success rate team. They're very good on third down. And, Raheem, you mentioned it. The Chargers defense, whenever they've played a good team, their defense has not held up to the same level it has against the bad teams. And so I think that the Chargers defense is maybe a little overrated. We talked about the Chiefs defense not being what it was last year. You combine all those factors with these two quarterbacks, I would just reflexively look to the over. And I think this opened 44 and got bet down. I would lean toward the over for sure.
Yeah, so Anthony, I was supposed to ask you about this Bills-Rams game, but we already spoke about that. We beat it into the ground. I want to know how you feel about the Chicago Bears San Francisco 49ers game. The 49ers are laying 3.5 over under 43.5. What's your thoughts on this game? I don't think we've talked about this game the entire show. You got a new coach hire. What's your thoughts? How do you feel?
So I have a friend who I ran into yesterday at the Big Five Classic in Philly, big college basketball event. And he was asking me like what my thoughts were. He's like, I feel like such a sucker. I'm taking the Bears +4. I mean, that seems like the most obvious bet of the year. And I was like, well, I'm also on the Bears. So maybe we're going to fall into the same trap. It just has all the makings of the new coach coming in, inspiring the team. They just came off extra rest. The Niners, they get embarrassed on the road. But keep in mind, that was their second straight multiple time zone road game shift travel spot. Now they come home and like their season's kind of on the line here. But what is the Niners offense right now? Because it has not looked like the same unit for the last month. And I think there's still enough priors baked into how good San Francisco is that if you've just given up on them as a team this season, you should be getting the Bears. Anything over a field goal is good.
Anthony, we talked about Bengals Cowboys. Cowboys catching 5.5 at home Monday night. I don't want to drop a name here, but I talked to Boomer Esiason, you might remember him. But I was looking at the Bengals over-under for wins. It's 7.5. I was like, God, this is the best 4-8 team I think I've ever seen. And for them to get over 7.5, they have to win like 4 of the next 5. I don't like it. Even though I kind of like them in this game, like what the hell is going on? Like they'll be favored in probably 4 or 5 of those games, certainly this week. What do you think of that specifically?
Joe Burrow and the Bengals have been talking like they care a lot about how the last month of the season goes. Like there was a comment like, we're going to be remembered on how this last month goes. It's just not really true. He's saying it and they can try to make themselves believe it. But at some point you have to wonder, especially for this defense, because usually by now you start to see a defense bottom out and then there's something happens. They change personnel. They rotate through some guys. They get the replacement level guys out and try different replacement level guys. We saw that with Carolina. I mean, Carolina was a horrible defense, and even now they're just a bad defense, not a horrible one. So they've kind of figured some things out and gotten healthier. The Bengals at no point this season have looked like they have any answers to solve their defensive issues. So that weighs on you at some point when you have to be perfect every week. And Joe Burrow, in week 17, when he's 6-10, is he going to be totally locked in during the week, or are they kind of like thinking about Cabo? So I do now think there is like it's the point of no return for Cincinnati, where now you're like, well, there is no real path to the playoffs. I guess if they won out, they could maybe sneak in, but it seems pretty dubious. The whole house of cards comes tumbling down at some point.
Yeah, I wonder if it's this week. I came super duper close to taking Dallas as my favorite underdog pick of the week. Instead, I went with Jacksonville just because of the toss-up nature of that grotesque game between them and the Titans. The Titans are complete frauds. All of their priors are hot garbage. Washington ran for 270 yards against a team that was allegedly a top 5 rush defense. That's a garbage franchise at the moment. Maybe they're on the right path, but good luck with Will Levis. I want to revisit this Steelers Browns game. You mentioned wanting to stay away because of the Jameis variability. We got the news that Pickens is definitely out. And, the number, it's been 6.5. I don't think it moved any with respect to that news. But it was already a precarious number for me in terms of taking the Steelers. History says don't take the Steelers when they're big favorites like that. Are you more emboldened to maybe weigh in with the Browns now?
So I wasn't here for you guys do the OMG bets, right?
Yes.
So Cleveland would be my man's best bet, my OMG bet. I like Cleveland a lot this week. And in fact, I bet them spread and money line. I just didn't want to make it my wisest wager because you can't truly be wise to get into the vortex of Jameis. But yeah, I mean, so Jameis has started 6. This will be his 6th start. I will have bet the Browns in 5 of them. We beat Baltimore. That was great. We beat Pittsburgh last time. We lost to the Saints. That was a tough one. And then last week, which, we'll live on the Mount Rushmore of gambling bad beats for at least the next 2 years. But they are an explosive offense now. And the whole thing with Cleveland that kind of scared me was that their defensive metrics and giving up big plays had been a real issue. And we saw it last week, and we saw it over the course of the last month, really, where their defense is just not what it was. But Pickens is like the only guy who's a deep threat on the Pittsburgh offense. So if Calvin Austin breaks some big ones, I'll tip my cap. But this is the class. I mean, Tomlin's the most predictable coach in the league at this point. And we try to convince ourselves that it's luck or that they're this or they're that every year. And I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to say when Tomlin's a big favorite, I'm going to bet against him. And when he's an underdog, I'm going to bet on him. And we're going to see what happens. I'll probably win, and I'm going to tail, cousin Sal, and then we'll see what happens.
That's the way to play it.
All right, so the Philadelphia Eagles are laying 13.5 at home against the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers have covered 4 straight games. It's crazy to say that. I know you were high on the Panthers. The total is 45.5. What's your thoughts on this game? Are you buying that the Panthers are going to cover again, or does this streak finally come to an end?
I've already burned the tapes on everything I said about the Panthers in the offseason. I never bet them to win the division, 11-1. Never bet it. No idea what you're talking about. But I do like the Eagles here, although I think you could target them in the second half. I think that's the way I'm playing this. I laid 6 in the second half. The Eagles' first half offense has been kind of a disaster. I don't know what they do during the script all week at the NovaCare complex. They don't score in the first quarter. Their first half scoring margin is like a league average at worst, at best team. In the second half, though, the Saquon Barkley runs tend to wear you down. They're so good in the trenches, they tend to wear you down. And I think Carolina's run defense is still the worst in the NFL, despite the other improvements they've made. So I think this is a Eagles runaway late game because in the first half, I just don't really trust Philly to get margin. And you're laying a huge number in a weird spot, right? They just come off their biggest win. They get back-to-back road wins. Now they come home. It's like, everybody's just kind of like here in Philly, people are already thinking about next week. So I kind of think they could come out a little flat here, but I do like them to pull away late.
I want to point out that life is good. And it's especially good because if you go to FanDuel Sportsbook on the Ringer specials, we have our own little column here, House. I think you know about this. Collectively, we're all over the place. We have bets, and I like every single one of them. Now, they might not all hit, but the paper chasers, Anthony, you guys are responsible for this one in particular. Underdog special, Browns to win, and Raiders to win. I know we covered those games in discussion, but tell us why you like that. You get like 10-1 on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is dog week for me. Just 2 teams in Tampa and Pittsburgh that I think are flawed as favorites because they've been playing so many close games this year. You're going to be in the mix for both. And you have high variance. I mean, you mentioned O'Connell's numbers covering spreads, but also Jameis. I mean, if he doesn't throw pick sixes, if the Lord does deliver him from pick sixes, then he might pull an upset here. I mean, he just beat Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago and managed that in the snow. So I think this is going to be a fun one where these both go down kind of to the wire. And so at 10-1, we were talking about it. Our first two headlines, "Are you not entertained?" was mine. I forget what his was for. It's something about the autumn win for the Raiders. And I was like, what if we combined them into a money line parlay? And so here we are.
There you go. And Raheem, you're doing something similar, not the same teams, both necessarily, but your underdog parlay right there in that Ringer special looks good. We don't get to do this really with just plus points with two teams together. But what do you have? You have the Jets and the Bears both to cover.
Yeah, I like both of those. I think, like the Bears right now, they got that new coach hire. You look at the San Francisco 49ers. Nick Bosa is out. Trent Williams is out. At some point, you just run out of talent. And then I already broke down the Jets earlier on. I think this is just a pure numbers play. It's went from one extreme to the other. The Jets being the most overvalued team in the league to now possibly being the most undervalued team in the league. So I'm trusting both of those, and we'll see what happens.
And they put ours together, our Ringer pregame touchdown parlay. Tyrone Tracy, James Cook, Travis Kelce, Rico Dowdle, or Dowdell, as Hal says, a very real aristocrat over there. 21-1 we get there. DeBundo, give us your endorsement on that. 21-1. Tracy, Cook, Kelce, Dowdle.
Endorsed.
Wow. See how easy that was? God.
Who messes it
not?
up? And don't say Rico. It is Rico. I know that Rico's the one that's going to mess it up. But who, other than Rico, who messes it up?
Kelce.
You could say
It's
that's
definitely
fine.
Kelce.
Fair enough.
That's fine.
Fair
That's
enough.
JJ's guy. JJ's already basking in the sun. It's fun. Yeah, of course it's going to be Taylor's guy. All right, listen, guys, that's it. I think we've said it all. I think you spend the next half hour on FanDuel Sportsbook, go over these various specials. My God, there's dozens of them. And that's going to do it for another episode of Ringer Pregame Show. Want to thank JJ, want to thank House, want to thank Raheem, and Anthony DeMundo. Anthony, where can we see you?
I'm on Twitter tweeting about bad fourth down decision making at Anthony DeBundo, and in the Ringer gambling feed. I'll be joining the guys tomorrow, East Coast Bias, to recap whatever the hell happens in the games today.
Beautiful. That does it for another episode of the Ringer Pregame Show. I'm Sal saying so long and happy handicapping.